And let me introduce to you my very special friend and guest today for Fiercely Flowing and this fierce conversation. So Patty Ferreira is a beautiful woman, as you can see, and she is known as the intuitive success catalyst, devoted to helping women break free from everything keeping them small and stepping into their higher trajectory. So Patty, I want to give you some space to share more about that, share more about what you do and anything else about yourself and your life that you'd love for the ladies of Essentially Woo and anyone else who's going to hear this conversation about you.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I am super honored to be here and to share this space with you, my priestess sister, and to be in this environment with your women. For me, it's a very sacred opportunity because this is a safe space where we can talk about how we are ever changing. I think that when someone asks me to share a little bit about me, the thing that I like to land is, you know, that I am ever changing and that I am in a devotion to that reality, that
Yeah.
I am in a space today and tomorrow there'll be a new interest, a new desire, a new thing that's growing me, that's calling me. So when I share about myself, what I can say is that I have I've played a lot of different roles in this lifetime. I have, done the corporate America thing. I've done the wife thing a couple of times. I am a mother and I'm in a new delicious relationship now after having gone in and done my work, right, around the shadow beliefs that were holding me captive and contributing to me showing up um in a toxic way in relationships, right? I am a mother of 3 adult children. I have 5 grandbabies. I like to say 5 because the fifth he's on his way. He's gonna be here in December, and he's already like tapping me. He's already like, grandma, can you feel me? Can you feel me?
Okay. We just have to stop right there because you all are asking the same question I'm asking right now, which is how on earth is this woman a grandmother, let alone of 5 grandbabies? So
Oh
you
my
are
God.
doing something right. We need a little bit of your juju today.
It's genetic, girl. Like I got hit with the genetic coding to really say, and it's funny because it skipped a couple of us, and then there's like my son, one of my boys. He's the oldest. He's 33, and you will literally look at him, and he looks maybe 20.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
remember, I remember when I was like pregnant with him, and I'd go into the doctor's office, and I had him at 25. And
Okay.
I'd go into the doctor's office, and people would be like, "Oh, look at this poor little baby, pregnant." And here I was, a college graduate, already in corporate, having now my kids, and people looked at me like I was like 13 and pregnant, right? So
Yeah.
it gets better. Like I was carded at
Yeah.
clubs at the age of like 35. So
We have to bless our genes. I get that too. I'm blessed that a lot of people don't think I'm, the age that I am. But
yes,
but we're going to reveal that today. And I think that it's part of this conversation is honoring who we are as women and the stage of life that we're in, right? So in looking at some of the fierce moments, which we'll dive into now, that you've been through, women our age, are dealing with a lot of these issues, right? Whether it's still dealing with financial issues, because many of us were really not taught how to manage our money, how to remove limiting beliefs around money. And we're doing that now as empowered women,
yeah,
right? Ready to reclaim our lives and support our dreams with a solid financial foundation, but also dealing with aging parents or
Yeah.
parents who have passed,
Yeah.
um, and relationships. So obviously you shared with us, you've been married a couple times, you're in a juicy relationship. I myself was recently divorced after 26 years of marriage, right? And that's a big, big chunk of your life. So how do you rise up after that? And how do you get yourself aligned, do the inner work so that you can show up in a new powerful way to be able to attract the right person and be in a
Yeah.
healthy relationship? So these are incredible, conversations that I want to get into with you.
Yes.
And so let's start. I do want to hear about, because the way you phrased this for me was quite powerful and had me questioning, okay, what on earth happened here and how did this save your life? So you talked about your mom's death and how your mom's death saved your life.
Yeah.
And that's a really powerful way of stating it, not the way most people would talk about losing a parent. So tell us more about that fierce moment for you.
So there's a lot there that I feel would add value to this conversation, especially because we're in this group of essentially womb, right? The first thing I want to share is that, not to diminish the the impact of losing a mom, right? But what I know now in all the past life regressions that I've done and in all the transcending work that I've done is that me and my mother have traveled through several lifetimes together. We've been sisters. I've been her mom and she's been my mom. So our soul agreement and our soul contracts are like super um distinct. Like I could see us, like I would tell my mom, we'd have this thing where we'd say, "Come and let's like put our knees together." This was like our way of saying we're gonna go in there and really get in close and talk about the stuff that only you and I know, right?
Yes.
And as a true Dominican, she'd be like, "De rodilla pegado, de rodilla pegado," which meant like knees together, right? No one can come in. So
Yes.
my experience, my mother was my best friend. My mother was my confidant. My mother was my biggest fan. My mother was the one person that knew me and held safe space for me in my life. Anyone else that was in my world saw a fraction of a version of me, or maybe even saw a
Mm,
mask, right?
right.
So this
Right.
was a very safe relationship. And I spent a lot of time taking care of her. She had metastatic breast cancer. So the entire agreement was set up by our souls to expand and evolve and grow us, right? It was like
Yes.
initiation after initiation. Like I was in a corporate position where I traveled, it was very glamorous, and I had to switch all of that to be able to be present for taking care of her. In that alone, there's already loss and grieving.
Yes.
So when my mother passed, I lost it. I lost it. I went into a full identity crisis. Like literally panic attacks where I couldn't drive my car. Like
Yeah.
it was a very visceral and it was a very spiritual experience. So it was
Yeah.
hitting me in all the dimensions, right? And I started to ask the questions that I had never asked before. Like, is this all there is? Am
Right.
I like literally, Monique, like I had it all,
Yeah.
right? The husband, I was married with my husband for 27 years, had left him, was in another relationship that was a 10-year relationship, right? But like, you know,
Let
many,
me let me stop you there for a second, because I know that it was 8 years ago that you left corporate America and transitioned into coaching and consulting. Was your mom's death around the same time? Exactly
that
the
was
same time?
that was actually the
The
catalyst.
catalyst.
The
It's so
catalyst to
interesting.
leaving corporate and
Yeah.
the catalyst to becoming an entrepreneur
Right.
was my mom's death. In fact, when I first got my first coaching certification was as a grief coach.
Okay.
This
Wow.
is how powerful we do for ourselves, and we get into service through
Yes.
what we need most for ourselves. Like, we are our own first clients. And I tell
Yes.
this to a woman every time, like, if you're going to move towards service through coaching, please find the thing that you need most and go first, because you
Absolutely.
are your own first client. So
Yeah.
I believe that my mom, that whole experience with my mom was what led me to this version of myself. Me wanting to connect with my mom was what brought me into spirituality,
Okay.
and not wanting to, like,
It
avoid
threw you
the
into
fact
it.
that,
It threw you into it.
yeah, it was, I was more like avoiding the fact that I was already connecting to her. Like, this is
Yes.
a soul that has, it's our experience is in my DNA. So, like, I could feel her, I could hear her, I could
Yes.
experience. So there was a level of truth to it that no longer, could hold the water of that's not true, or
Right.
that's, whatever we I thought it was before. So that was the experience with my mother, and that is why I say she saved my life, because I was down the path of gathering things, right? The
Yes.
house, the car, the titles, the achievements,
Filling the bucket of, with those things we think are going to bring
not
us the
even,
fulfillment. Yeah.
yeah, and not feeling fulfilled at all,
Yeah.
settling in the areas of love and sacred union, and
Mm,
calling it okay, because you have to kind of give something up to get something,
yeah.
like, there's another saying, and this was growing up, my grandmother would say, and I hope some of you girls speak Spanish, but they hold so much strength. My grandmother was a woman that didn't know how to read and write, so it was all parables.
Mm.
And she would say to me, todas las bonitas no se pueden besar,
Yes.
which was the thing that anchored there's got to be some settling.
Right.
And
Right.
I brought into that. I bought into that. I bought into, okay, these are all the beauties, all the deliciousness that I want. And if I've got all this, the children, the house, the vacations, all this, it's okay if it's lukewarm and even
Yeah.
less in this area.
Amazing. I looked at, because I'm an astrologer as well, and of course I pulled some data on you, and I couldn't help it. And this transition that you went through, this awakening, happened during one of your major Saturn
Yeah,
shifts in your chart. And Saturn, that's what it does. It's here to align us
yeah,
with our purpose, with our destiny, with the hard work and the lessons that we are here to discover and go through, so that we can get to that next level, right, of who we
yeah,
are. And so it was an initiation,
yes,
for you. And your Saturn is in Pisces, and so that spirituality just dropped in,
yeah,
and said, through this awakening, through the loss of your mother, the unfortunate loss of your mother, you are going to be brought into your spirituality in a deeper way.
yes.
You're gonna retrieve these gifts that have been dormant, and it's because you are getting out of your own way, you know
It's beautiful
um
that you say this, because that's exactly what I know to be true
yeah.
since I've done this work. And Saturn and Uranus are the two planets that I strategically positioned in my natal chart. Now I've been able to go in and see how I've placed them
Yeah.
around cycles of about 9 years, to where, like, and we all know Uranus, right? Uranus just comes in and, like, it's the wild.
Uranus is kicking everybody's butt this year, big time.
Yeah. So I strategically have Uranus in my natal chart positioned in particular places, so that I do not, like, coast.
Right.
It was like a plan to make this a culmination life,
Yes.
where I would just quantum leap into other things.
Yeah, and how beautiful that you are, aware and conscious of it and leveraging that information, because a lot of us would look at that and say, "Oh gosh, am I here to suffer?" No, I'm not. I'm here to elevate myself, right? My energy, myself, my work in this world. And is it going to be easy? No. It's
No.
never easy, and so yes, tools like astrology can help us to recognize what the evolution of our soul is here for,
Yeah.
in this lifetime. Thank you for sharing that. I felt you, and in one of those moments I'm like, please don't cry, Monique, please don't cry, because I know we have that in common, that my mother and I are extremely close. We have been close all of our lives, and it was because of her openness and her spiritual beliefs that I opened up myself
Yeah.
to everything that I'm doing today, because it's been in my DNA
You've
since,
given me
since
goosebumps.
birth.
I have
Yeah,
goosebumps from you sharing that, which is always an indication of how deep of a truth that is
yeah,
that you're
yeah.
holding. And I know that my work and my mom's work together is this like I'll come into my work around all the spiritual work that we both love and all the priestess tools that we all have access to, and
Yes.
a lot of it is brought to me by my mother and my grandmother. They're very powerful guides for me in this journey, and
How
they'll.
do you experience them? I mean, obviously spirituality is a big part of what we talk about in Essentially Woo, and allowing ourselves to retrieve our spiritual gifts, which show up for everybody differently. Now that you've um, gone through that portal, so to speak, and you are experiencing them differently now that they have passed on, how has that amplified your gifts, and how do they show up for you today?
So that's interesting because I am very much a psychic empath, right? Which means that I receive emotion. Like I can feel
Mm-hmm.
more, like, and all the other senses come through. Like I'm very vision. I see the vision and I hear the words, right? Um,
Yes.
and I'm very cognitive, which is like I just know. Like we're in this conversation right now, and something will drop into my mind, and it'll be like I knew it, like I'm remembering it, right? And it'll be like channeled through me. I know it's coming through me, but it's very much like here's a thought and here's a thought, and it's at that speed. So I know now that I am almost always channeling,
Yeah.
and what I thought were my thoughts in the beginning of my spiritual journey and what I would give like self-doubt to, I
Yes.
no longer, because it's just like coming through me. And then my work is to clean and clear the human, right? Clean and clear the ego, and
Yeah.
not because it's wrong,
No.
but because it's got a different purpose, right? When I'm in service to others and in service to my channel, it's my job to clean and clear what would be my doubts, my feelings of less than,
Yes.
my feelings of uncertainty, right? And it's like, how do I explain it so that we get it? But when a person tells you, come over and help me with this thing, right? And no matter what you've got going on for yourself, when you're in service, it kind of gets out of the way.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I think what you're speaking to is, again, from the astrological perspective, is finding the balance between our sun and our moon, right? Our sun is our ego, the moon is our innermost self, our core identity.
Yeah.
And the ego, unfortunately, is louder in this earth school that we're in. It's a lot louder. And so we have to honor our sun. We have to honor our ego. It's so important. We can't live without it. And we can't be impactful women leaders without it, but we do have to give it its place and
Yeah.
its boundaries.
And get into relationship with it. Get into a deep, intimate relationship with it so that we can discern
Yeah.
where and what it gets, where it gets to kind of
Yes.
get into the driver's seat, because all
Oh.
the versions of us are always going to come. It's like I'm always like, okay, we're going to get into the car. Who's driving today? All right, you're not driving. You're not driving. You're in the back. You can say a couple of things. You can share your thoughts because we're always going to hold safe space for you. But guess who's driving? And that becomes like the internal dialogue. So just to answer like how I come into relationship with my mom and my, not only my mom and my grandmother, all the guides, because I've got to, like, Mary Magdalene is a very powerful guide for
Yeah.
me. And she's also guided through a lot of what I do at my retreats and what I do in different things. But my I think the most important thing that I can share about how I connect with them is in remembering experiences that we had that can help me now.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Like
Yes.
when I hear something like my grandmother said, now it's her saying it. It's her dropping the nugget in my mind
Yes.
and saying, this is you. Like, remember what I told you, and now you know how to see the two sides of the coins of it.
Beautiful. And you allude to, I think what a tip that we can offer everyone here today, which is one of the easiest ways to connect with your ancestral line, right? Be it your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother, even relatives that you've
Yeah.
never known of who are there for you, is to drop in and remember stories, remember being with them. And that's how information begins to just kind of flow through. And one of the easiest ways to connect with them is through the stories, right? And the experiences. So thank you for sharing that. I want to jump into the masculine now, because in talking about our ego, that's
Yeah.
what comes up for me, right? It's that, and I'm sure all of us in this group have heard many dialogues, because it's a big conversation today, and I'm really happy that it is, about the divine feminine in ourselves and the divine masculine in ourselves, and we are both, right? And integrating the two is something that takes work, but is really important in identifying for ourselves how it shows up, right? How does Monique's feminine show up? How does Monique's masculine show up? Where are there gaps in the energy that need to be healed or filled? And so in going to the fierce moment of your recent breakup, right, which you claim was a catalyst, for you getting into the right relationship with masculine. Oh, we got to hear about this. I know so many of the women, and we can laugh out loud now because of Tarot Tuesdays. I know that a lot of the women in this group are seeking relationship, are in relationships that are a little shaky, and they want more information. So we need this conversation around the masculine. What did you learn through that experience, Patty?
Wow. That's a big question. And I think I'm going to take it on from the before and after
Okay.
kind of approach, because I feel like connecting with the before is going to allow us to meet a woman where maybe some women where they are. Some may resonate with my before, and then maybe talk about the after, which is
Okay.
different for everyone, right? Everyone's journey of elevation and expansion to a higher consciousness is different. But I do want to share that I had an upbringing where it was always my mother and my father and my aunts and their husbands, right? And it was a very matriarchal upbringing
Yeah.
where my grandmother kind of ran the tribe,
Okay.
and then the women came in as kind of like the warriors that came in. So I'm dying to see the movie, like The Woman King, because I could already see how much of that I was brought up in. So these are very strong, determined, vision focused women that I was brought up by. And it was my grandmother, my mother, and her three sisters. The men in the family were given tasks, right? Efficient, effective, very clear,
Yeah.
very intentional tasks.
Which men really appreciate, by the way.
Like, tell me what you want. Tell me what you want, right? So let me give you an example of what that looks like.
Okay.
You know, my family got to the US back in the 40s, right? So we lived in New York when people didn't even know there were African Latinos, right? It was like, you guys speaking, you're black, and what's happening, you know? So there was a lot of that going on. So it took a lot of coming together as a tribe and really supporting each other to make things happen. And the women were always like, where, you know, the kids go to Dominican Republic in the summers. We want them to learn Spanish. The kids are going, we're doing this for Easter Sunday. We're taking them to the circus and we're dressing them up. And the men were like coming in to like drive and to like, but it was always very led by the women. Very powerful experience,
Right.
right? Then there's the shadow piece where there were little things that the women would say, where it was like, you know, things like, we don't really need a man.
Mm.
Things
Oh gosh.
and it would be like side jokes, right? Like, you know, what do you do with them for the rest of the, you know, the other 23 hours and 45 minutes of the day when those 15 minutes are gone? So I grew up hearing like those things, and I remember now, after going back several times, that there was a moment where I had to pick a side, just a non-conscious agreement.
Right.
Pick a side. Like, I'm gonna be one of these women. I'm gonna
Yes.
be and I'm the oldest granddaughter, right? So from that moment that I decided that this is who I identified with and this is who I wanted to be, I also agreed that men weren't really needed. And
Right.
we were in marriage and we were in relationships, but they weren't the ones that led the pack. And you could just imagine the type of man I would attract in that
Exactly.
energetic.
Wow. Just
You
that right there is a mic drop, ladies. So all of you out there, it's so important to recognize, like Patty's been doing, what are those belief systems that we've been raised with that today, for many of us, unless we're doing the conscious work, they're sitting as default beliefs.
Yeah,
And so if that's what we believe, that a man is only useful for doing effective and efficient tasks, and they have nothing else to contribute to our life, guess what we're attracting?
yeah.
Right? Wow. Yeah.
And this is where it got really, really dangerous, right? Because I was so devoted to what I was being taught. And part of what was coming through was, we only trust the women. We take care of things our way. We
Hmm.
share our deepest, most intimate secrets with each other. The men were on the outer circle, right?
Wow.
So there was there and these and I'm talking about, like, my dad was an amazing man, right? But when you're in relationship, one's the masculine and one is the feminine, and it doesn't matter the gender. One's going to take one role and one's going to take another role.
Yes.
So what happens in those things, right? We've got the women in deep tribe really going through all of it. And then we've got the men on the outer band looking for places where they could be seen
Right. And connect heart to
and
heart with the women.
connect with the women. So one of the things that's part of my lineage is the men being disloyal, the men cheating on us.
Right. Right.
And
Yes.
that it comes with the same thing. So it's been part, like, my grandmother lived it, my mother lived it, I lived it in my 27-year marriage, right? So here you're getting all the toxicity of being in wrong relationship with the masculine.
Yes.
And I'm not even seeing it. I'm fingers pointed outwards. I'm like, you other effers, and you see what I mean? Like self-perpetuating my already negative, limiting beliefs that they're worth nothing. I'm just piling it in and making it just
Yeah.
work against me, right? So it really took coming back inward and really taking responsibility for my beliefs and what I had agreed and what I had learned about men and how I was, reflecting that into every relationship. I've always had tribes of close women,
Yeah.
right? And I've trusted women. I'll trust the woman the minute I meet her.
Yes.
A man, it's like back up, wait, what? You know, and that's all me.
Yes,
That
that is on you. And personal, this is what landed me and into coaching and becoming a coach, and pretty much just forgetting my earlier career as well. So you and I have a similar trajectory in that, but it was in recognizing personal responsibility, because
yeah,
there were things happening in my life where I was getting sick and I was allowing toxic leaders, I put leaders in quotes because they really weren't,
yeah,
into, allowing them to influence my life, my health, my well-being, and my direction and my sense of self. And then I realized, wow, it's really not up to them. It's up to me. I've got to make those changes, and that's what led me into becoming a coach and teaching leadership the right way to be
yeah,
leaders,
yeah,
of our lives. So I love this conversation. Now because all of the women are going to be drooling for this now, okay? Because we have planted a very important seed here. So I would love for you to tell us the after. What is it that you did? We know what you discovered, right? You shared with us something very powerful, what you discovered. And obviously you made some changes to those beliefs. Um, what were the steps that you took to now land you in what seems to be an incredible relationship with,
yeah.
I'm sure what you would say is your divine masculine? Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. Such an awakened, emotionally intelligent, big partner, where there's, you know, like soul sponsorship of each other's soul.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
beautiful.
so this is the thing, right? There's a couple of things here, and I know you always ask me such big questions, but I want to give, this is the one thing I want to land before we move
Yes, yes,
forward,
yes.
because I think it's important.
Patty, it's my Scorpio moon. I can't help it. I go deep.
I'm I'm a girl for the deep edge too. That there's no surface for me, and that's why it's like okay, And then my mind is like, and say this and say this. So this is the thing I want to say and make sure everyone understands, especially the women, in the world right now. I believe, and this is my point of view, that the woman that is between the age of about 40 to 60, so 40 to 65, is the woman that currently is feeling the biggest call to grow and to expand. That is the woman that is being called to learn the most. That is the woman that is being called to unlearn the most. I
Mhm.
call it the unbecoming in order to become, right?
Beautifully, beautifully said. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the first thing we get to understand. So if you are feeling it, sister, know that it is purposeful, because we are the women that are not the young generation that's come in with the new codes, right? Of to be here for this change and for the new, right? They
Right.
came in ready to support us.
Absolutely.
And we're not the women that are our older, generation, our parents, which are pretty much like kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to see like what happens. We are the front line. We
Hmm.
are the front line. Like there is no coincidence to this movie that just came out, The
Yeah,
Woman.
I know.
Like, we are the front line, and we are being asked to change the order of our beliefs, to dismantle what we thought was true, to go behind the veil and
Yeah.
look at things from a totally different perspective. So we've got the biggest gap.
Yeah.
Now, so this is the important piece. And some of us, I believe, were awakened prior to that so that we could kind of be the third graders that bring the first graders along.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I believe that I was one of them because my pandemic happened in 2019. Like
Right.
COVID was doing its thing, and my 2019 could trumpet so many times, right? So
Yes.
I know that I was being prepared. So what I can say matters is awareness.
Yeah.
And how do we tap into awareness? Awareness is the most powerful and probably the biggest step and the longest step in our work with women, getting them to where they can grow eyes that can see,
Yeah.
getting them. And this is something that my mentor says a lot. My mentor, Nanila Diamond, she says, growing eyes that can see. Why is that important? Because when you go into awareness, you are moving past the emotion that something may create, seeing yourself as something like I'm a mess up, like I'm a
Right.
failure, like I'm
Yes.
not good enough, right? And you're turning and you're becoming the observer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, and I call it the curious observer, right? Where you're like, oh, here's this thing. What is this? And
Right.
what has this been used for? So the first step is awareness and really starting to recognize our own patterns, not the behaviors, right? Not the story, not
Right.
the cast of characters, right? Because you're like, my ex is my biggest teacher,
Yes.
my biggest catalyst. Like, that's how I get to say
Right.
things.
And sometimes when we're in pain, we don't want to look at that. We want to put them in a little bag and hide them in the closet, but we
and
have to
and make
take
it,
them out like a
yeah,
little doll and have those conversations again. Be the observer, start to recognize
yes.
where the patterns are so we can break those patterns, change the language.
How is this precisely supporting me? How is this helping me? How is this guiding me? And it's in seeing it even in the ones that you feel are harming you, or
Yes.
or are doing you wrong, right? That you did me wrong and all that thing. So that's the first piece. You get to go into self-reflection. You get to come into self-conversation. So self-awareness is a very powerful first step towards anything that you want to alchemize. The other thing that I think would be the most crucial thing is really seeing where you're giving your power away and taking your power back. Like when you tell the story about those authority figures, because they weren't leaders, they were people that were given titles to lead.
Yes.
When those authority figures were, you know, demanding and sucking and pulling and doing all the things that they were doing that created the experience you were having, the question would be, why am I giving my power to them?
Right.
And how can I take my power back?
And how can I take my power back? And this is really important for those women stuck in the corporate world, right? Because we think that there's no way. And sometimes or we think we're going to rock the boat. And maybe you are in a place where you can't leave your job, and that's okay, right? It's okay. And that's important information to have. Right now, I cannot leave my job. So I need to figure out a way of taking my power back without rocking the boat. And sometimes it's a quiet power. It doesn't have to be a loud power.
Yeah.
It's just speaking to yourself in a new way, in a loving and compassionate way, right? And that begins the shift of reclaiming your power.
That
So
is
you
the
make a
that
better decision. Yeah.
that is the the fundamental piece that you're sharing, right? Like one of my signature teachings for a woman is called the power of self. And it's because there is a feminine power that we have given up, that we have looked the other way, right? And the feminine power is not force, It's not the masculine lost warrior that we have walked around as. The lost warrior that's like coming at everything with a knife, right? And coming at everything like it's a battle. And that
Yes.
warrior has no vision, it has no foundation, it is just fighting,
Without strategy.
exhausted, without any of the vision and strategy and north node that we know guides us, right? So we get to bring the warrior home
Yeah.
and let the warrior rest, and we get to rise in
Yes,
our
ma'am.
clarity, in our clarity around what are our yeses and what are our nos, because the one that's been hiding, the feminine queen that's in the castle, not coming out and getting involved, just sending the warrior out to fight,
Yes.
is the wrong relationship,
Yeah.
right? And when a woman wants to come back home to self and remember who she is, there gets to be the building of the most important relationship, which is the relationship with herself. And a woman is not only the the version that you've seen today. She's the wise woman that's lived all the lifetimes before.
Yep.
She's the little girl and the princess that has excitement and has joy and brings creativity. She's the queen that knows how to say back up when it's necessary. She's the warrior. She's the mother. All these versions of us, we have like in toxic shadow, um, negative parts and positive parts of the spectrum,
Yeah.
right? And we get to bring all these versions of ourselves
Yeah,
back.
and that's really it, because a lot of times, and I think that this reflects back to, the the original conversation of attracting the right mate, is we have to awaken all these versions of ourselves that are there, right? And we get to choose which one of these archetypes we embody at any given moment, right? And so there's some times where I want to be the young princess, the maiden. I just want to go to a party and have fun, right? And then there are days where I'm like, I want to embody the mother, and really be compassionate and serve and take care of my people, the people that I love in this
Yeah.
lifetime, right? And then there's the queen warrior. There are days like that where I'm like, I'm going to slay the world today, in a positive way, of course. And I'm going to like elevate myself, and I'm going to do something amazing in my work that's going to serve the world, right? So we get to play with these characters, with these archetypes, and embody them. And so to kind of, because I can talk to you for hours. We're already at almost an hour, but
Are
let's
we?
we are. Can
Oh
you
my
believe this,
God.
Patty? But let's circle back, and with this idea of what is that archetype, or how do I need to, yes, it's archetype, and how do I need to embody this archetype and put it out in the world, quietly or not, to attract that divine masculine, for those who are really, really seeking a true partner, mind, body, spirit?
Yeah.
What would you say is your suggestion to them?
So the most important thing is to come into a place where you've found the harmonious blend of all these versions of yourself. And I don't use so much the word archetype, because for me it felt like, it was like a blueprint and an architecture and a concept, which we've talked about, like how I feel about living life based on a concept.
Yes.
And for me, it's about the versions of you. Why does it matter? Because the versions of you are very distinctly different from the versions of me. And it's our individual responsibility to befriend, to get to know, to really be an intimate relationship with each version of us, so
Yes.
that we have clarity around what our yeses and our nos are. Like,
Yep.
it's about going back into the ice cream store and tasting all the flavors again and really knowing which one's yours, right? Like,
Yes.
again, another teaching from from my mentor. So the
Yeah.
first thing that I can tell a woman
Can
is
I drop a hint real quick? And I know and love Nanilea, but for those of you who are really interested in diving into exactly what Patty's talking about, on your own, if you want to pick up a good book, one of my favorites is Carolyn Mace, Sacred Contracts.
yes,
And she talks about these archetypes, patterns
yes,
that, and you, by going through them and going through your history and your story, you're going to pull out those that are your stories,
exactly.
and are those aspects of you that you now get to know
Yeah.
deeply and heal
Mhm.
and revitalize in a new way. So
And
yeah.
that's why I'm loving that you're bringing that in, because it's a very individual process.
Yeah.
Like, again, what we can learn from a lot of our mentors in the books are the concept, and it's always going to be about you really getting in there and seeing what is there for you.
Yeah.
So when a woman can look at, how can I blend all the versions of me that matter to me, that hold wisdom,
Mm,
that hold value, that hold importance, right? Like, I am a woman that was very masculine. So I am very connected to my warrior.
yeah.
I'm very connected to my identity, in how I contribute to the world, how I show up, right? So when we're doing feminine work, sacred feminine work, it's important to understand that what we're seeking is the harmonious blend of masculine and feminine. Because I myself, in the work that you just mentioned, have seen myself being pulled too much to the feminine.
Yeah.
And that didn't work either. I get to find the calibration, right? That is going to match what my soul is here to do.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that is most important is really seeing these versions of you. Which part of you are you taking too serious? Do you only care about the title? Like, if someone asks you to introduce yourself, what would you say? That lets you know what identity of
Yes.
you you're devoted to,
Yeah.
which one you're feeding, which one you're nourishing, versus the ones that you're like, oh no, I don't want to be that little girl that sounds foolish, right? When we take ourselves too serious, we're letting go of aspects of ourselves that have jewels, right? The sensuality and the sexuality is not the warrior. It's
Yeah.
not, right?
Yeah.
And it's also not the priestess. It's not, right? It's the wild woman. It's the sacred prostitute. It's the one that you could, it's the one that has that primal,
Yeah.
raw Kundalini energy. Where is she? Where did you
Right.
leave her? Where
Right.
where did you leave her? And can we bring her back into the circle?
Yeah. Yeah. And what I'm really getting, Patty, is that in doing all this work, what it does is bring us back to our authenticity. And when we are living in our authenticity, and you're seeking a job, you're seeking a mate, it doesn't matter what you're looking for. When you are in your authenticity, what is right for you and what is authentic for you is going to find you,
You
right? And
have
so
mag-
however
yeah,
your inside vibration is being lived, that is what the external environment is going to feel and match. And
yeah.
so that's the work. That's
That's
the
the
work.
work. In
Yeah.
clearing up whatever doesn't serve what you want to be, become, and attract, because you are a magnet.
Yes.
You're a magnet of what you're become, of what you are. And I wish there were more tactical things that we could share, right? But we both know, Monique, that this work requires coming in deeper, coming into
Yes.
self,
Yeah.
finding a mentor that resonates with you, finding a tribe that can hold you. That's why you've got your group and I've got my group, and every woman in your group should have her group, because
Right.
there's so many women looking for a tribe of women that can hold them high, that
Yeah.
could, call them in, that can guide them, right? And that this is the power, because as women, we tribe is very important to us.
Yes. Yes. So I'm gonna start wrapping us up, and I want to say thank you because this has been such a rich conversation, and we're just gonna have to have like volume 2 coming up soon.
I love it.
But for right now, obviously, you alluded to your group, and you have a beautiful group on Facebook. So tell us the name of that group. So if the ladies want to search for it and join it, they can do that, and I'll type it in here as well.
So my group on Facebook is called Awakened Boss Ladies.
Okay.
It's the Awakened Boss Lady Success Circle. And it's a place where I invite women that I'm very devoted, Monique, to the woman that is not as deeply into spirituality as we are. Like I'm devoted to the woman that I was back in 2015.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the woman that I want to speak with, that I want to connect with, that I want to serve and support, because that's the woman that's in the deepest pain. And
Absolutely.
that's why my group is very much about you being awakened and still a boss lady.
Yeah.
Like
Love
we
it.
are not here to say no to that version of you. And awakened and boss lady to me is the yin and the yang, right? The feminine and the masculine. You know,
Yes.
I devote a lot of my time to helping women individually in my VIP sessions and in my group sessions, and I devote a lot of my purpose to retreats, as you know.
Yes.
But you know, my next retreat's in October. Guess where it's at? It's in Cape Coral, where we have.
Oh gosh.
So
Oh,
I'm in
let's pray.
prayer today. I'm in prayer today for that area, and I know it'll figure itself out. And you know, there's so many options of what we can do, and I'm devoted to making sure.
Listen, what I know for sure is what's going to be revealed. In fact, it's beautiful, right? And this is a great way to like to look at nature. Nature is recycling itself right now. And so the waters are bringing in what's been deep underneath the ocean in Cape Coral that needs to be brought up and brought to the shore and to the surface. So there
Yes.
you go. And I want to close with just, let's see. Yeah, anything that's inspiring you right now, like whether it's a new book or a new concept, or what are you doing on your own time when you're not serving others that's inspiring you right now?
Wow. Okay, so I am doing several things. So I bring breath work into my work, and I'm
Mm,
doing a lot of devotion to breath work with couples.
love it.
And with breath and breath work to reconcile the couple within you, the masculine and the feminine, right?
Okay.
So there's a lot of that, and you know, I'd love to come and offer it to your girls, to your sessions, to the things that you're up to. I'm also doing my ministry. I'm working on becoming a reverend. You know, we've done the priestess together, and now
Yes.
I'm working on being a reverend of love. And I think the most exciting piece has been my recent discovery of reading the Akasha.
Mm,
So I am reading, channeling the Akasha, learning how to read the Akasha,
beautiful.
and that is a powerful experience. And besides that, I'm excited that I'm going to be at your event and be with your ladies and really be in person at the, what is it, the wine woo, and I love the word. It was like,
Yes. Women Wine and Woo, our new moon ceremony, October 25th. Yes, I'm so
I'm
excited you're gonna be
already
there.
I'm already signed up for that. I don't know if you noticed.
Yes, I did, and I'm grateful. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a rich experience
Yeah.
for women to just recognize the power of being in circle, right? Being in a spiritual circle and performing ritual, simple ritual that can be very powerful, and of course, celebrating life and celebrating delicious wine. So that is a little bit of what's going to happen there. I'll be talking more about it. But
I'm excited.
thank you,
Yeah.
Patty. What a great conversation, a great way to spend the day as this hurricane is swirling out there in our Gulf. And again, just sending love and light to everybody who's affected.
Can I
So
share, Monique, how you have been a light
oh,
for me for
yeah.
years? There are so many moments where our souls called each other. Like, and I know I've shared them, and I feel like I haven't shared them in this energetic, and I'm waiting for us to come together on the 25th so I could really ground how
Hmm.
much you've impacted, like who I've been, and to just leave you with how much it matters to do these small things. I remember in 2015, maybe 2016, I went to an event where you were the speaker and you had your tribe of ladies, and they kind of came up. I think it was in FIU. I don't remember where it was. But you made such an impact on me.
Oh my goodness.
You made such an impact on me, and it was like my first glimpse of doing it differently than the corporate kind of ladder and checklist and roadmap that I thought was the only way.
Oh, thank you, Patty. Oh my gosh, now I'm trying to remember. I think I know exactly which event it was, and that was such a beautiful event. And I loved the energy in that room. And isn't it funny how we can be in each other's presence? And I mean everybody in this community. We can be in each other's presence and not know each other, not recognize that later on, a few years later, we're going to be, you know,
Yeah,
colliding and
yeah,
supporting each other again. Thank you for that. That has made my day.
yes,
And you as well have been such a light for me, especially on this priestess journey,
yes,
and just being able to create such a powerful sisterhood,
yeah.
right? And
This is what we
that's
get to show other women how
exactly.
collaboration is possible, and it's not, the competition is dead. It's expired.
Yes. Oh, amen to that, sister. All right, Patty, thank you, honey. Have a wonderful rest of your
Yes,
day.
stay safe. I love you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you
Love
so
you.
much. Bye
Okay,
bye.
bye.